Leah Cutter writes page-turning, wildly imaginative fiction set in exotic locations. She writes fantasy, science fiction, mystery, literary, and horror fiction. Her short fiction has been published in magazines, anthologies, and on the web. Her long fiction has been published by New York publishers as well as small presses. Leah, it's yours.
Thank you. I'm going to be reading, as you can see, Witches and Waterways, which is the third book in the Water Witch Mysteries, which is a paranormal mystery series. What I'm giving away is book one of the Water Witch series, called The Witch is In. So I hope you sign up and get a free copy of this book. So this is from the start of the book, so there isn't really much setup. Each book can be read out of order. They don't have to be read in order, but I'm still going to just give away book one. So, are you sure you didn't send this to me or arrange for it to be delivered? AJ said on the phone to her younger sister B while holding the latest Valentine's Day card she'd received in her hand. B gave an exasperated snort. Why would I go to such trouble? I don't know, AJ said, putting the card on her kitchen table, along with the other half dozen she'd received so far. That day was Friday the 7th, and she'd received one Valentine every day since the start of February. They were kids' Valentine's Day cards, with cartoon characters saying corny things, such as a bee holding a honey-dripping cart that said, "Be mine," or a bear with an overflowing bucket of strawberries that said, "I can't bear to be without you." None of them were signed. They didn't come through the mail either. Someone wedged them into the edge of her front door as there wasn't a gap under the door. Sometimes the cards had been soaked with rain. They didn't seem ominous or threatening, just weird. Okay, maybe a little creepy, but that was just because they were anonymous. The cards themselves weren't suggestive in the least. Maybe you did it because you thought I'd be lonely or something, AJ continued. She looked out the kitchen window onto her backyard. The day had been gray and blustery. Night had already fallen and the rain would start slashing down soon. She hadn't gone into her yard and practiced her water magic in the fountain for a while. The weather had just been yucky. She had had many opportunities to practice making water flow away from her, magically drying herself off after being caught in a deluge. Or 3. Don't you have a date with Roland on Valentine's Day, B said. Yeah, AJ replied. Roland was the unofficial historian of Milltown, where she lived. Since that wasn't a paying position, he had his own lawn and garden care business. Winters were his off-season, so he had a lot of time on his hands to do research, write papers, and work for the Historical Society. AJ and Roland had been dancing around each other for a few months now. He'd lied to her soon after she'd first met him, and it had taken some time for her to trust him again. He'd been completely honest since then, and there had been a growing attraction between them. They met for coffee, spent hours talking about everything and nothing. It was finally time to see if there was something there. Hence, dinner, Valentine's Day night. Roland had made reservations at one of the nicer restaurants the next town over up the coast. Since you're already set up for the big event, why would I need to take pity on you? B asked. Though AJ considered herself the practical sister, and B was merely an artist, B still had a good point. It was AJ's turn to sigh. Because you're my bratty younger sister and would like to play a trick on me? Fair enough, B said. But again, I wouldn't do something as elaborate as this. Do you think Roland's behind it? Ugh, I hope not, AJ said fervently. Because if he is, we're not suited for each other. Seriously, the thought of Roland being behind the cards was so off-putting to her. Have you asked him, B said pointedly? Used your words? Like an adult? AJ rolled her eyes. I will ask him. I just wanted to ask you first. All right, I'll give you that. Of course you think I was that brilliant, B said smugly. AJ fought back the urge to smack her sister, even though she was miles away. But you have no clue? No vision to show you the culprit? B continued. No. Did you actually try having a vision about it? B said determinedly. I did. Kind of. AJ picked up her soothing peppermint tea and headed back into the rest of her house. She thought of the kitchen and upstairs as the private areas of her house, the ones that were truly hers. The front entrance, the round tower, and the large sitting room where she did her tarot cards reading were public places, those sections she shared with her clients. Normally in the evening, she'd eat dinner, make her tea, then head upstairs to either the study or her bedroom. Tonight, she decided to go to her reading room and see if maybe she could get another vision. She didn't feel the urge to go and sit in front of her scrying bowl, but she wasn't repulsed by the idea either, so maybe something would happen. It's probably good that you're not having visions about the cards you're receiving, though, right? Means they aren't dangerous, B said. There is that, AJ said. Most of the visions she'd so far had been about bad things that were about to occur. Though you do know that mostly I see the future, not the past. So ask who is going to give you the card tomorrow then, B said. That's a good idea. See, I do have them now and again. AJ couldn't help but roll her eyes, though B couldn't see her. Do you and Peter have plans for Valentine's Day? You don't want to know, B teased. You're right. There isn't enough brain bleach in the world for that kind of thing, AJ said, shuddering. She really didn't need to think about her sister and her adoring husband, or even any of the kinks they might have. B just laughed. And while I want all the details of your date with Roland, I don't want all of them. Deal, AJ said, though she doubted anything like that would happen. It was much too soon. Even though she had been thinking about how soft Roland's beard looked and how it might feel against her skin. You do know that if you were going to be lone and miserable, Peter and I would make a trip down to see you, right? I know. Thank you, AJ said. Though she hadn't been that close to her sister while they'd been growing up, they'd spent much of the past summer together sharing the vacation house that Bea owned and had finally figured out how to be friends. Mom's making noises about coming down with me some weekend, Bea warned. She said the same sort of comments to me. I'll believe it after she's been here for an hour, AJ said. Their mother was urbane and sophisticated and unlikely to be impressed with the sleepy little coastal town of Milltown where AJ now lived. And it wasn't the town that kept AJ there, though she'd made more friends over the past 9 months than all her years living in Seattle. It was the ocean. And that's where I'm going to leave it.